right. Well, welcome everyone to this week's resume review. We have the wonderful Emily here with some resumes for us to cover today. She's going to be sharing her screen as we cover these resumes and writing out some notes as we follow along. We want to encourage discussion here, so if you have any questions or comments you want to make, please feel free to interrupt, and we can kind of kick off a little side discussion. If you don't feel like speaking up in the voice chat, you're welcome to speak in the large meeting room channel. We will be monitoring that, and if we need to, someone else will speak up for you. We want to also remind everyone that this is focused more towards American engineering resumes. That's more so Emily's area of expertise, and frankly, that's what most of us here are familiar with. I assume most of us here are Americans. I believe most of the server is, and we tend to be engineering students or recent graduates. But if you pull something from this, then that's great, regardless of your discipline. And if you think you can add something from your own discipline, then again, you're welcome to discuss it with us. With that being said, I think we're ready to start off. Emily, you can take it away.
All right. Thanks, Chase. So we got 3 resumes today we'll try to get to. Depending on how fast we go, we'll see if we can get to all 3. But we're going to try. I haven't really, the last couple of resumenias haven't really been focused on content. We kind of talked about layout and interviewing tips and stuff like that. So today we're going to just jump back into content yeah. So again, as Chase said, I like to make this a discussion. It's not a lecture. So if you have any questions or comments, or if you disagree with me, please speak up and we can talk about it as a group and figure out what makes the most sense to, all of us. All right, let's do this. So here we have a recent grad, May 2021, electrical engineering. The format seems pretty clean. What do you guys think of your general impression overall? Want to make sure that, and if it times out, the screen times out, let me know, and I can reset it. But what do you guys think so far? First impressions.
Education is on point. One line, super clean. Love it.
Yep. No fuss, no muss.
Question/comment. Do we not do phone numbers anymore? How is the hiring manager going to call you and phone screen you?
Yes. So there has been discussion about that. I think people have different opinions. I personally like putting your phone number because usually we go through a phone screen first. The first contact will usually be an email. Like someone's just most likely not going to just call you out of the blue. There's probably going to be an email first. But it is super helpful to have your phone number on your physical resume. If, like, for example, you're doing a phone interview, they want to make sure that you have the right number down and that they're talking to the right person. So I probably would suggest it, but I mean, I don't think they're gonna it's gonna be at worst it's gonna be slightly annoying, but I don't think it's like a deal breaker or anything. But people have different opinions about that. But that's how I feel. They have, let's see. Let's look at their skill section. They have a lot of skills listed. I'm not an electrical engineer. Do we have any electrical engineers on today?
I'm technically an electrical engineer.
Perfect. This is a lot, right?
So when I say technically, like most do project management. But yeah, there is a lot here.
Okay. And they are a fresh grad. So I'm guessing that this is kind of like what they looked at in their courses, and probably if they touched, a specific language or a specific concept, they listed it down.
Yeah. So looking at these, it looks like there's. I would try to break this into two pieces just to get single bullets, because you have some languages, and then you have like NumPy is part of Python, but it's for like analytics, and
Like a
Anaconda. It's a
library.
library or a module that you
Mhm.
put in there, and then DSP. Um, I don't know. I would think that would go with the next line
That's a more
down.
concept, right? That's more of a
Yeah,
concept. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Is oscilloscope and signal generator a skill? Uh, kind
I
of,
think
but
I think that's a, like I've used an oscilloscope before. Like
yeah, that
sort of.
whole second bullet could probably just go away. Um,
Yeah. I mean, if you're an
let's
electrical
see here.
engineer, I hope you have touched an oscilloscope. You know, if you're an electrical engineering major. Um, so I
Um,
would probably, I mean, at the very least, they need to be comfortable with talking to every single thing that's on their resume. And that includes this list of skills. And I think you're right, Jade, in that it needs to be broken up a little bit better. It doesn't seem to make sense how there's kind of like um what is it called, like a kind of category to the left of the bottom two, and then not a category at the first bullet point, and then I don't really know what's going on with the electromagnetic transmission lines lab oscilloscope. Is that like the maker of the oscilloscope? Like, I've used this electromagnetic lines labs oscilloscope before. I'm not really sure.
yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think. I mean, transmission lines. I mean, that sounds to me like power, like high voltage power lines.
Mm-hmm.
That's. I'm thinking. Is this person here? Oh, he is here, but he's muted. You're free to jump in and defend yourself.
Or help us out.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, okay. I fixed the microphone.
That's okay.
So, yeah, that's just a like electromagnetics lab for like RF communications and like antennas.
Is it like a company?
Oh no, there's how you design antennas for like
Okay.
just antenna design basically.
Yeah, that sounds like something that you could probably incorporate into a project.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put that into a skill up here. I would say the whole second bullet probably should go out.
Okay.
And then, like I was saying, NumPy and I'm pretty sure PyTorch also are libraries of Python. And then FPGA is a bit broad, like that's a whole thing. What
Yeah.
about FPGAs were you doing? That might end up as a project as well, where you could talk about what you were doing to FPGAs.
And of course, this is us looking at it without having read further down. At least I haven't. So I do agree with Jade though that the bullet point at the top, I think you need a little bit better like organization. So I'm gonna write that down here, and you'll be getting a copy of this that I've written up at the end, so you don't need to furiously take notes or something.
Also, this will be on YouTube forever.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Good point. So I think that this stuff, expand on in bullets. And maybe it's just me personally, but I would like a little category at the beginning, like languages or software or something that kind of encapsulates those listed items at the top, kind of like what you do with simulation and microscopy. But that's just like, I think, personal preference. All right, let's move on to projects. All right, senior capstone. Created deep neural network models for image recognition in Python using TensorFlow and Keras environments with image accuracy rates. So usually S in parentheses like that means multiple or single. And you know how many of them you did. So you should be able to say single model or multiple models. So I don't think, yeah, multiple models.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't think the parentheses are necessary for you.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yep, and same with the accuracy rates. If you are actually, I think the rate would be singular. Okay. Grammar. Do we think that this is a good enough explanation of what you've done? You go into talk about a little bit more detail about how you analyze the sensitivity of the models in the second bullet point. I'm quiet. I'm usually reading. I'm not ignoring you. I promise. People can jump in if they want.
That's okay.
Okay. It's not my forte. I would say Frost. Do you want to jump in?
Okay, so I think first question that I would have with that would be, what kind of image recognition did you try to do? Was it something that's specific for like static objects? Was it something that recognizes people's faces, or like what specific recognition system were you using or building?
It was just images, like pictures, static, like you say.
Okay.
Yeah. So the goal was to basically create a model that's accurate. And once you create that model, you can use it to implement or to create a circuit design for machine learning. But I never got to that part. So I only did the model. But I didn't have time to do like the circuit.
Were your images something that would be relevant to a future job? Like, were you identifying cancer versus non-cancer, or
no.
trucks versus cars, or
just,
what color is a stoplight?
No, it was mostly the professor didn't care. He said, "Oh, you can just use whatever images." But
So what images did you use?
Animal.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the accuracy rate, you've mentioned like 86% to 90%. What made you, input it as a range of accuracy rate rather than an average? Was it because you've used different, variables? Like, for example, although they're all static images, some of them are perhaps, like a typical object, and some of them are animals of use, as you've mentioned? Or was that just something that, okay, because I'm not quite sure as to what the exact average is?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. I should have done that instead. Put the average of the training models. Every time I train a model, and I ended up with an accuracy of 86. So I just trained multiple dozens of models, changing variables, different techniques, added images, deleted images, and um, so basically, when it comes to training the model, you have to use. It's kind of like you test whatever works best for you. There's no like specific formula. I don't know if that makes sense. So, every little thing that you readjust or add or delete variables or techniques or formulas, it affects the accuracy rate. So it's kind of like, okay, we'll see what happens when I do this, or well, let's see what happens when I increment this or that. I don't know if that makes sense. That's why I should have, maybe it's a better way to just say, oh yeah, accuracy rate average of, I don't know, 87% or 89%, maybe.
So I think that you could probably put in like your overall goal, even if you didn't. Well, I guess you. Oh, never mind. You do in the second bullet point at that last. For the design of an analog circuit for machine learning bit. Never mind. Sorry. I have no idea what the weight and bias layers mean, but that's maybe that's just my lack of understanding of how, like, that works.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to even, just summarize everything you did in a couple of bullet points.
No, no
I
worries.
struggle with this.
It's difficult. That's why, so
Yeah.
many people pay to have their resumes edited, because it's hard, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Don't feel bad at all. We're here to help. This isn't like everybody like take shots at you. This is a how we can come together as a community and help you improve.
Yeah, just
Okay?
be honest. Honest feedback is good.
Yeah.
Better
So
than, yeah, this is great.
yeah, exactly. That's not helpful.
Yeah.
So when you're saying you're injecting noise, do you like try to see you inject the noise and try to see how well the image recognition like is able to recover, kind of?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way of explaining. So
Okay.
after I trained the model, then I added like, yeah, quote unquote noise to the
Okay.
model, basically by changing the weight and bias values on specific layers. And it's kind of like saying, like, for example, if your final weight value was like 5, then you readjust the standard deviation. It could be like 5.1, 5.2,
Okay,
5.3.
so that's where the standard deviation 0.5% to 10% is coming from.
Yeah, and then you
Okay,
adjust it.
okay, so that's like describing the noise that you're adding in. Okay.
I was saying that in that regard, like, did you specifically use any mathematical models, like for example, PCA and regularization? Because from how I am reading this specific bullet point, it sounds like very biased that you are injecting a predetermined noise to your model rather than, actually using a much more logical and consistent statistical or mathematical model to actually produce the noise.
Oh, okay. So that's a good question. I asked the professor the same thing, if this was valid, but he said, well, you have to have a control way of um, basically, how to say it? It's kind of like experimenting your model. So you have to control specifically the numbers. And the second bullet point was after the model was trained, then you can just do whatever you want with the weights and see how um, how strong your model performs even after you change the values a little bit. I don't know if that makes sense. But
Yeah, I think I guess what I interpret from what Frost was trying to say is that were you injecting any certain type of noise? Like, how did you determine the noise that you injected? Did you just like, I don't know, pick something random or make it up for you? Or did you use like a formula?
I was, yeah, I just use the standard deviation and what do you call it? Normally, what is the formula?
Normal distribution.
Yeah, normal distribution, and that's it.
Okay.
So and to the model to the bias values and weight values, and that's it. But when I was training the model, yeah, I used a lot of mathematical techniques, I guess, like regularization and dropout rates and all that stuff.
So, kind of a side question, but what do you want to do with your degree? Are you looking for something related to like something like this project, or are you looking for like more of a hardware position?
It's
Or
I'm
not
interested in
picky?
hardware.
Okay. Okay.
I'm also interested in medical devices, but right now, it's pretty tough to even get a job.
Okay, so not picky. I
Whatever
gotcha.
works. Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to like get into like an analysis of like your project. I want to more like try to make sure that you're presenting it as clear as possible. And I think if you, I don't know if I'm getting a clear picture of what you're trying to do and why. Maybe if you moved like this last section here, that's kind of your overarching reason to why you're doing this, right?
Yep.
I kind of feel like the second bullet point is more of a detail of like that second adding noise into it. I don't really know if it relates to the overall purpose of what you're doing. I think maybe that's more the first bullet point. So I might actually suggest just switching that last bit on the end of the first bullet point to kind of make it a little clearer about like what generally you're doing and why, in one kind of package. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What about like I was never able to do the circuit. That's why I kind of just left it at just a small.
Yeah, so obviously you can't really expand on it anymore if you didn't do it, but that was the intent.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you, I don't think you need to change. I think if you just leave it as it is, it's okay. Like somebody might ask, like, "Oh, like, so what was the circuit?" But you'll obviously have to say, like, "Oh, like I didn't end up doing that." But I think it's still important to communicate what the overall goal was for the project, and like why you started it, even if maybe you weren't able to, finish it as much as you would like.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm gonna just put a little arrow to move this up to the first bullet point.
You mean like having just one big bullet point, or is that?
Oh no, just the end bit here.
Yeah. Oh, okay, got it.
And kind of integrate it into the first bullet point. Right. So you have like what you're doing and then why.
Okay.
You could probably, if you wanted to, add a little bit more detail of like into this. Add like more bullet points, but if you would prefer a hardware role, it might make more sense if you go into those more detail, the hardware like kind of projects rather than this project. And people have different feelings about this, but I personally suggest you list your projects in order by relevancy of like what you want to do. So maybe you like a project, like you like your pacemaker project better, even though you did it before your senior capstone. If that's more relevant to the position you're attempting to get, I would say move that to the top, because I don't want your best project to kind of get lost in the middle of this section. If your best project is in the middle of the section, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So I'm a fan of ordering by relevancy versus chronologically. I know some people are very hardcore chronologicalers, but that's kind of my take on it. You can obviously, all of these comments are like, you don't have to listen to me. I'm just trying to give a, suggestion. So do whatever makes sense the most to you.
Okay.
All right. Any more comments on this one, or should we move to the pacemaker? All right, let's move to the pacemaker. All right, create antenna designs using calculations in MATLAB. Perform a series of measurement tests using tools such as network and spectrum analyzers. Okay, so from that bullet point, I don't know what you're doing or why, or really why. You're creating the antenna design, but I don't see how you're relating it to a pacemaker. Like, I don't really see like the overall concept of what you're trying to do.
Can you refocus the window, please?
Oh, yep. Sorry. Is it black?
Yeah, I accidentally clicked off and went. Now I'm back. Thank you.
Yep. So I would say try to get a bigger picture. Maybe integrate. Obviously, I can see from the title that it has something to do with a pacemaker, but it's kind of unknown for me.
Okay, yeah. I was trying to like just point out, like the details, I guess, of what I did.
No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, we want to see details, but we also want to see like how that fits in, how like your specific contributions to the project fit in with the like overall design and stuff like that. So my comment here is going to be like give context. And performed a series of measurement tests is extremely vague.
Yeah.
I would either be more specific or take it out. So I'm going to say vague and be specific. And I'm not really sure what you're aiming to like get from these tests. Like, what are these tests trying to tell you? Like, are they telling you how good your antenna design is? And like what sort of variables you're looking to, measure?
Mm-hmm.
Like the strength or the, frequency. I don't know. I'm not an electrical engineer. I'm sorry.
I wasn't aware that pacemakers had antennas. Is that for transmitting data?
Well, I guess the goal was just to start from scratch. That's what I was trying to say, that you have to. So the design basically has to do with make lots of calculations. Measurements has to do with the strength of the antenna, how much power you need, or So, sorry, what was your question?
I think he was asking.
What do antennas have to do with pacemakers?
Well, it's pacemakers have they transmit information basically.
Okay, so it's transmitting like data logs.
Yeah, just data transmission basically.
Did you base your design on something existing?
Yeah, well, this was part of a lab because I didn't have a lot of this was a lab project from a
lab project.
Yeah.
Did you ever construct a physical item? How close was your simulation to actual?
We didn't get to construct the actual antenna.
Okay.
We just got to basically, everything but the antenna construction.
Okay. I think your second bullet point is the second bullet point like more of an expansion on the measurement stuff that you mentioned in the first bullet point?
Yeah.
Okay. You could probably combine the two then. Okay. So I guess what jumps out to me is the designed matching systems for transmission lines. Probably because I'm a mechanical and I'm like, design. Oh, I know what that means. But can you expand on that a little bit more? I just want to make sure. I want to know what you did in terms of that section.
Well, with that, so basically it has to do with transmitting, the information basically, or voltages, I guess.
Okay.
The strength of the So transmission lines just has to do with how to say this. It's kind of like sending information from one point to another. It could be wireless or it could be through a wire.
Okay.
So basically, a good antenna design would be able to send and receive almost all of whatever information or voltage you send to another antenna specifically, and there is not a lot of lost signal.
Oh, right. Okay, that makes sense. So what like design work did you do? Was that more like picking out components that matched what you needed, or was that like something else?
It was mostly just calculations. And
Calculations? Okay.
yeah. Um, we just tested our calculations with a simple antenna, basically.
Okay. So it was like you calculated that you needed like this amount of power, so therefore like you would need like this size of whatever.
Yeah. And we also
Okay.
use simulation of the body, I guess, or like body fat. So
Okay.
we did the how well the transmission was sent from it's transmitted basically.
So you actually was that simulation like a physical test, or was that still through calculations?
It was physical. So the last part was physical. We actually were able to send
That's
test
kind of
out
cool.
the
I think you
strength.
should talk about that.
I'll try and come up with a sentence for that.
Yeah, I think that if you like kind of use the calculations like and threw them up the calculating part from the second bullet point, like voltages, currents, impedances, that stuff can be like literally name dropped in the like measurement tests,
Mhm.
because I think that's what you're doing is you're measuring the voltage, current, and impedance. But the design matching systems to me sounds like a separate task. Is that accurate? I mean, I don't know what you did, so this is me trying to coax it out of you.
I believe it has to do with testing of um I guess yeah, maybe I'm thinking a good way of explaining that because I think I'm bullet point 1 and 2 are just explaining much of the same thing, basically.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think you can combine them. Yeah.
Mhm.
But to me that I guess maybe the magnetic fields as well, if you're actually like measure, well, I guess that's kind of another measurement, right? If that's what you were doing, you were measuring the magnetic fields.
Yeah, yeah.
But it
So,
seems like the transmission lines kind of could stand alone if you maybe wrote into more detail about that one.
okay, and then maybe so the whole magnetic what is the magnetic field? You
Yeah.
measure that. This that's what I measured physically using the antenna, and see how well the magnetic field, you know.
Okay, so that's kind of testing the strength of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I would say like similar to the neural network project, you always try to talk about the calculations, about the models, but what specific models were you trying to use? Especially with this pacemaker, you've mentioned frequencies, you've mentioned that you are specifically working with spectrum analyzer. So were you using like Fourier transform for that one, or were you using like a swept tune analyzer? Just so we have like a more idea of what exactly you were working on, because you've also mentioned like antenna and basically data communications between the pacemaker, and you've also just mentioned about measuring the strength of the signals, of the frequencies, basically. So I think that would be a lot better for you to be able to actually mention whether the computation of the time sequence where we're under like FFT, or if it's under like swept tunes.
Okay. So could I make like 3 bullet points? Would that be okay? Because I have kept the.
Okay, you're one of those. Yeah. I know some people say that you need to have like only 2 bullet points per section or only 3 bullet points per section. I'm of the camp that use as many bullet points as you need to convey what you did. So if it takes 10 bullet points to let me know what you did, then use 10. That's more of like, once you graduate and get a job and you work on the same project for multiple years, then it starts to rack them up. But don't be afraid there's no like hard and set rule for the number of bullet points. Yeah. It's not a big deal. I can see that in the next project, you kind of were like, I need to have 2 bullet points for every single one. But it's really not. It's not a big deal. The really only huge thing is like 1 page. That's like the only like big deal, for new grads at least. All right. Let's look at this microfluidic chip. Co-wrote, so little grammar. Co-wrote a technical analysis proposal project for a lab on a chip device. I would drop the name of the chip. Which one? To detect DNA. Do you want to do DNA and RNA?
Yeah, that's a typo.
Okay, no worries. And viruses and bacteria that cause respiratory diseases. Okay. That is a great example of giving like an overall arching of like what you are trying to do. That was awesome. However, I feel like this one's missing in the details that you had in the other two.
Yeah, okay.
You do kind of a top level. And I don't know if I know sometimes it can be like a little iffy, like talking about the design of something, if it's like proprietary or hasn't been published yet or something like that. But I think a little bit more detail would be helpful.
Right.
I'm going to say that here for the second bullet point. You could add. Yeah. So like, how did it work? What was new or novel about like the design that would, make it better than the other ones? Stuff like that. Even if you, and like try to, I don't know what you specifically did here. If you were like a support, or what your contributions were, but if you can be specific about your specific contributions, that would be awesome too.
Okay.
And again, I think this is probably, if you ordered this in relevancy, I think that one might be a little bit less relevant. And it seems like you probably didn't do, I don't know, we'll see. Let me not, get ahead of myself. Let's continue. Microcharacterization of solar cells. Solar cells are cool. All right. I don't like that you start with learned, because there's no way to prove it. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Like you can say you learned something, but you could be totally clueless about it. I think if you started with operated high resolution scanning, that would be stronger. Because there isn't any proof needed for that. So I would actually say start with operated here. And I think these two might be able to be kind of combined. Because you say operated and then you kind of say why in the second bullet point, right? Why did you operate it? You wanted to look for certain resolution images on a solar cell structure.
Yeah.
So I would say combine these two. I know that quantitative details are great and important, but I don't know how relevant they are here, especially name dropping the type of microscope. I don't know how helpful that is. Unless you wanted to go into solar cell work specifically, then maybe it would make sense. But you also need a space here.
So it's okay to have one bullet point.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'd rather you have one concise bullet point than two awkward, not really telling me much bullet points. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right.
It's how concise you can be. You want to be as concise as possible, and convey your information as in as short as possible, like bullet, as few words, like that office episode. Okay. So when you were looking in the microscope at these solar cells, what were you like looking for defects or flaws, or you just like looking at them just to look at them?
Well, this was basically just a class,
Okay.
and where they taught us how to basically how to use the SEM
Okay.
microscope. Supposedly using specific techniques to get good resolution images.
Okay.
So, since I was the only undergrad in that class, the rest of my classmates they already had projects to work on, their personal projects. So I just ended up picking up something that was interesting to me. So it was just to look at defects, and for me it was just to learn how to operate and get good images, basically.
Okay. Okay. So if there's no really overarching goal, I wouldn't try to make one up. But that I think is fine. I think unless you plan to use a SEM like in your future job, like if you're applying to certain jobs that do that, I think that might be the probably lesser relevance. Oh, I see that you don't do. I just realized this. You don't order it in terms of chronological order. I see that you have a 2020 for this one.
Yeah, should I just delete that project? I wasn't sure if I should even keep it.
So in terms of deleting and adding, what I like to do is basically list everything you have. So like right as make the changes that we suggested, and add detail where you need to add detail. Then I would list it in order of most relevant to least relevant, and you just line everything up on the page, and then anything that doesn't fit on the page you take off.
Okay.
And then you just keep what fits on the page. Because when you get into should I delete this, should I not, then it's like, oh, well, do you have something stronger to replace it with? Do you not? Are you going to have to play with formatting? Stuff like that. So I find it easier to just list everything first and then kind of remove afterwards. That's not a really good answer, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, cool. All right. Last one, very wide amplifier design, manually calculated parameters such as impedance, and use cadence virtuoso. Should the virtuoso be capitalized? Is that like the name of a program?
Yeah.
Okay. It's okay. That's why we look over it.
Is that like multisim?
It's like LT Spice.
Oh, okay.
I think you can use multisim too. Yeah, but it's basically for analog mostly.
We did multisim for everything.
Nice.
Okay. Analog schematics, various simulations for the design. So this various simulations is generic. I think you could probably expand on that. Is there any reason why you listed last?
I think, I don't quite remember. I've been applying it everywhere. So
no, I was just curious. It's not like it's not a big deal.
I think I was thinking they're gonna see the first project, which is my senior project, the first and last.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, in psychology, there's something called primacy recency effect. I guess people tend to remember the first or last thing of whatever they look at or read or whatever. I think I was just trying to apply psychology to this.
Well, I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know if I can help you there. But all right, let's think of it. Let's think of what you're doing. So, did you calculate other parameters other than impedance?
Well, like current, voltages, current.
Okay.
Yeah, and most of it you can. I think the only one that I calculated on paper was impedance, and currents.
Mhm.
Everything else was just through we used
Through the
simulated.
software, right?
Yeah, and then when I said various simulations was because I, readjusted. Okay, let's do this with I don't know, different current and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's fine. This complementary metal oxide semiconductor technology. Um, how did you implement that technology into your design?
Basically, that's the CMOS, the MOSFET.
Okay.
Yeah, I was asking a friend of mine before I had CMOS, but then she said, "Oh, you need to spell out the whole thing."
Oh,
So basically,
I did not immediately jump to CMOS.
oh no,
I
right.
I would definitely put it back to CMOS.
CMOS. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I was questioning that. I was thinking that's too long, but I'll just keep it this way.
No, CMOS is such a standard that no, just no. CMOS is
CMOS.
good.
All right.
Okay,
I
so
hope.
you use the CMOS in your amplifier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I am not an electrical engineer, as I said many times before, so this is going to be a struggle for me. I apologize.
It's
Just a
just a
couple.
transistor technology. I mean,
Yeah.
not to diminish what you've done, but it's just a transistor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whenever I see electrical engineer, I throw it over to Evan. I'm like, I don't want to deal with this. So this is like, I'm trying my best, man. All right. So design voltage regulator to minimize effects of supply noise. The wideband amplifier with DC gain should be lowercase of 43 decibels. Did it work?
No, yeah. The expected was like I don't know, 30 decibels,
Okay.
something like that. The gain.
Okay.
So this was much better, I guess. Yeah, it was much higher.
Oh, you
Higher.
should say that then. You should
Okay.
say like, percent of improvement or like you
Mhm.
over I don't know. I would say be specific about results versus expectation or goal. Because if you if you are intending to do something, to 30% and you do a better job, you exceed your goal, then that's good. Sometimes it's bad when you're like trying to hit a number, but in this case, if you're okay with exceeding it and that's better, then definitely talk about that.
Okay.
Okay. What time is it? Dear God, it's been 50 minutes. Okay. I don't think we're going to get to the third one. I apologize if you're still on. You don't have to stay and watch. I don't think we're going to get to yours. But we will do another one after this. Okay. Work experience. Extra space here? Question mark.
Yes.
Okay. Tutor over 150 sessions weekly during school hours. Facilitated workshops. Workshops is one word. Organized statewide campus visits, led recent graduate engineer panel discussions, created I'm
Did I
reading.
lose this? Oh, okay. It was abrupt.
I'm sorry. Crickets. I'm sorry. I'm reading. Um, Tutoring stuff is difficult for me because it's hard to get results from that. But I think this is fine to leave. You obviously aren't going to be like, well, before I came, they all got C's, and now I came and helped them, and now they're all getting A's. Like that's not realistic, right? So I I think that I think I would if I were you, I would take the project section and kind of adjust it as we talked about. I don't know if you end up needing more room, I might take either some of the leadership stuff out and work experience stuff out in favor of expanding on your projects, because projects is like, how you're proving that you're a good engineer. Work experience, you're proving like you're a good, communicator, and you have leadership skills and stuff. It's more soft skills, I think, for you. And that's fine and good, but I think I'm going to skip down to leadership and awards. Leadership and awards sections are difficult for me. Because I don't know how much you did for them, basically.
Are you a leader in IEEE or any of these societies you mentioned, or are you just a member?
Just a member.
And then again with the scholarships, like, I don't know how hard it was to get these scholarships. I didn't know if you had to get a certain GPA or if you had to, perform or do like a essay or whatever. So that's why I always say leadership and being a member of something and then like getting a scholarship is kind of hard to communicate accurately to the reader, because obviously, like, I don't know what your College of Engineering scholarship like entails. Like as an outsider, that doesn't really mean much to me. But again, like,
I think I'll be okay deleting it. I wasn't sure if I should keep it or delete it.
Yeah, I would say like if you for your projects, then that would be something that you would think about removing. But on the other hand, I guess like most electrical engineers are probably members of IEEE, right? But so I don't know if it's like something that will it's not something that's going to spark a conversation. You know what I'm trying to say? Like if you're like, oh, I was in the same fraternity as you or something like that. And it's like, oh, everybody's in IEEE. All right. How do you feel?
Me?
You feel better or worse about everything?
This has been a lot of help, to be honest.
Okay.
Like every time I ask people, or
I hope this didn't feel like an interview or something, because this is I'm trying to make this more casual. It's not but I hope that you're able to get maybe a third party perspective, because I know that if you sit and you redo your resume 500 times, like you start to go insane reading the same thing over and over again, and it definitely can help to get some new fresh eyes on it.
Yeah, you guys helped me a lot, actually. Like, I really want to help with grammar and, how to structure sentences and all that. And this actually has been a lot of help.
You feel good about that? Okay.
Yeah, I feel so much better. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Does anybody have any last minute comments or questions about this, or I'm going to move on to the next one.
Emily, before you go on to my resume, I forgot to blank out my phone number, and I sent you the new redacted version.
Oh gosh, panic.
Emily, while you pull that up.
Yeah, go ahead, Chase.
We don't have to keep seeing that resume, but I was just going to comment that I like the use of bolded headers and lines between sections. I thought it was broken up fairly neatly and was easy to scan through and see what you were going to talk about in your resume. I think you did a good job on that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sometimes when you do a good job on something, I just ignore it and I'm like, check that box. Formatting looks good. And I'm not very good at, going out and giving you compliments. So thank you, Chase, for pointing that out.
Oh, is this for me or the next person?
No, that was for you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at the new resume. Yeah, thank
Sorry,
you.
I'm getting it set up.
No, thank you guys. This helped a lot, actually.
All right, I'll obviously this will be uploaded to YouTube, but I'll send you this and post it into the resume channel on the Discord.
Thanks.
I think
Okay.
just something like it might be nitpicking, but just
Yes, it is.
to
It is.
have a more consistent stylistic option based on what he did. Because in the education section, he put the university first before the bachelor's, which is in bold, and then for the rest, it's always the bold one first before the university. So perhaps. I don't know.
Oh, I understand what you're saying. You think the university should be bold instead?
No, I mean, like, perhaps he might want to put the Bachelor of Science Electrical Engineering first, just so it would be a little bit more consistent to how the work experience was formatted.
Oh, I don't know. I actually like the university going first because then it's kind of like big to small. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like the big university, like what the narrowing it down to the degree and then narrowing it down to the specialty.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I'm just saying that, like, just for the stylistic option that he chose for the rest of the resume.
No, that's true.
Yeah. So keep it like.
Because you have, you have like the name and then comma university name
That makes sense.
afterwards. Oh, okay. Yeah. I think that's a small thing. I don't know if it necessarily, I don't know if I agree with Frost, but that's
I
okay.
have a question for you guys. Just a very last question.
Yeah.
Checking your LinkedIn. I mean, lots of people say
LinkedIn, it's one of those things everybody has different opinions about. Are you asking, like, should you include a link to your LinkedIn on your resume?
Yeah, or just not. Don't even.
Okay. So we talked about it a little earlier, but I think you should put your phone number in. LinkedIn is a little bit, if you have a very common name, like, John Smith, and there are like 500 John Smiths on LinkedIn, then maybe it's an idea to kind of put your LinkedIn down to like show which John Smith you are. But if you have a less common name, then they probably could just search your name. Yeah. Although I'm kind of
make them work for it.
I'm kind of interested in the number of click-throughs that people actually get to their LinkedIn profile. I'd be interested for statistics on that. I don't know what it is, but I don't really know if people actually look at it as much as maybe we think they do. But again, it's person to person, I think.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys.
I would think some companies would strip out hyperlinks from external documents too.
That's true. In terms of like a safety security thing.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. On to next one. This looks like the right version.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. All right. I know that Jade wants to talk about the significant digits. Do we want to start with that? I think hundredths place is fine. I think 398 is fine. In my mind. So then you're not having to round it up to 4.0 if you don't want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely don't think I'd be comfortable with that.
I think it just draws the eye because it looks a little silly.
Yeah, that's fair.
I also think that it's not really appropriate to be putting GPA when you're so far from graduation, as well.
Ooh, that's true.
You're pretty far out there.
What are you, a sophomore, a junior?
Junior.
That's true.
If he's applying for like an internship, perhaps the GPA would help.
Yeah, I mean, everybody I've talked to says they kind of require it.
Yeah, I mean, even just because I know some internships require a minimum for you to apply to that. Yeah, definitely keep it on, but yeah, okay. I think that's fine.
Minimum GPA.
I'm not sure
Yep.
U.S. citizen needs to feature so prominently either.
Well, we
Unless
don't.
you have a is your university in the U.S. and do you have a American sounding name?
I don't know if I'd call it American sounding. I put it because I was told for like aerospace, people care about it.
That's true.
It's probably security clearance.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't give yourself a Muhammad name or something like that.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I don't.
This is going on YouTube, guys.
Yeah, I don't know if that was like really appropriate, man. Like, come on. But I think that the overall layout, I like the gray bars. They do a good job of kind of like cutting it up. And
Oh, I thought that was an artifact. I didn't even notice until you said something.
I think
It
the
might
be
colors
my
are pretty
screen,
hard to see
but-
on the stream.
Yeah.
It looks pretty different if on the original doc.
Yeah, there's a slightly red artifact.
my bad. I'm turning it off.
That actually doesn't affect our view of it. That
Yeah.
only affects your view.
Never mind. I tried.
Let's see.
But yeah, I think
Okay.
the original it's a little bit more clear that those gray bars are darker.
Okay.
Shit.
Let's get into your work experience then. Can you guys, is this zoomed in enough for y'all? All right. Okay. Produce 12 detailed aircraft profiles and fleet composition reports and research government contracts to educate clients on the military industry. Following the wake. I'm not really clear how COVID-19 has to do with you producing aircraft profiles.
Basically, the project was created because a lot of companies got hurt by COVID-19 and they realized that like the military industry didn't get hurt as much. And so they were all trying to transition, but they didn't know too much about it. So they came to our firm, just asking for some generic information about it. So my role on that project was to create the aircraft profiles.
Okay.
Or
And okay, so these are not these are not commercial aircraft.
That's
all,
correct.
Okay. Combined 3 years of experience as a space clerk. Quality insights. The second bullet point is a little iffy because that could be easy as like copy and pasting like into an Excel document.
Okay.
In my mind, I don't know if that's what you did, but that's kind of what I get from that bullet point. If you had to use other sort of tools to do that, like if it wasn't that simple, then I would say that a little bit more, I think.
Okay, talk a little bit more about like the tools or the process that I had to.
Yeah, like you could say using like Python or whatever.
Okay.
I did this because then it breaks it, makes it a little closer to what you actually did than me getting a kind of a gut feeling about it. The higher quality insights is a little wishy-washy. What sort of data analysis did they do on the entries?
So the analysis, basically after I combined the databases, it went to somebody higher up. But the analysis that they did was like entering it into like AI software that like can compare the results from different questions to see like which are related to each other.
Oh, okay. That's Frost's thing. Frost, do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, like, I think there's like something that we were discussing with Emily last time. Like, did you wrangle the data? I would say.
He likes the word wrangle. I don't get it.
No, it's very the data science.
Well, I'm not too into data science, but I semi-wrangled it, I think.
Yeah, so yeah, if that's the case, I would say wrangled would be a much stronger action word for that instead of combined. Because
Okay.
with wrangled, you specifically you're mentioning that, oh, I cleaned the data, I read the data before I actually combining them.
Okay, I see.
It might just be an academia thing for us, though.
No, that is very industry specific though. Data wrangling.
Okay. Yeehaw. All right. But you know what I mean when the higher quality insights for suppliers seems kind of like
Yeah,
a little
that's-
half-baked.
I knew it was super wishy-washy when I wrote it. This
Okay.
is something not really in my wheelhouse, so I wasn't very
No, it's okay. I
sure
think
how to write about this.
instead of like focusing on like the results of that, I think actually it would make more sense to kind of give an overarching picture of how you fit into like the scheme of things. So like, how did your data manipulation or whatever, like what were the steps after that? Like what were you like, what sort of data analysis did they do? And kind of how were they able to take those survey results and actually like make sense about them or make decisions, stuff like that. More of like a higher level overarching kind of thing. I prefer that instead of like, since like it's hard to get results from this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand what I'm trying to say here?
Yeah, so I could get rid of that like kind of meaningless end of the sentence and put more about what I did with the process and like what it actually meant, what they were able to do with it.
Yeah, like overarching goal.
Okay.
Of data, of survey, of everything. Okay. All right, manufacturing intern. Increase. Oh, go ahead.
Can I jump in this one because this is my realm.
Oh, Laz, I didn't even know you were here. Hey.
Hey. Okay, so these first two bullet points here, there's nothing necessarily wrong with them, not in themselves. It's two outrageous claims, and if I went into an interview, I would grill you to death about them. So, why don't you just to kind of explain, because it sounds from this that you just waltzed in as an intern and increased machining times by 250%. How did you do that?
Well, it's a great question. Basically, for a lot of the parts that they were using or that they were machining, they were using older programs on their machines that they had programmed, like not by hand, but on the machines themselves, not using like a computer or any software other than the machine. So I was able to actually take the CAD from the part that they were trying to make and give it to this Power Mill software, and then create toolpaths that were like specifically optimized to create that part as fast as possible with the given tools that they had.
Okay. And was that your own initiative, or is this just like a project that they gave you?
Basically, they had the software in hand, but they didn't have the spare time to like go in and learn it. So that was my main job when I first came in, to learn the software and then to start implementing it on their parts. For starting off with some lower, some lower risk parts, and then moving on to the higher value things, eventually getting to that dollar value and the speeds.
Oh, okay. And the dollar value, you got $100,000. Is that over 1 year?
That's over the part count that was ordered.
Okay, you need to say that in the actual bullet point itself.
Okay.
The next point, okay, you implemented new gear design software. What was the software?
Shoot, I don't even remember at this point. It was some French software, like a pretty specialty kind of thing. Pardon?
Was it called KissSoft?
Ooh, maybe.
Okay. I
feel like I remember that name, but that might have just been because it came up in my research. I'm not sure if that's the one we went with.
Yeah, that's this one. It's used quite a lot. But I kind of like implemented it in what stage? Like, did you implement that into the actual design process?
Yes. So another company came in saying they wanted this helical gear made with like certain specifications, but the CAD they had didn't perfectly fit what they actually wanted. And so it was kind of on the machine shops to take their specs and modify the CAD into what they really wanted. And so they didn't really have that capability. So it was my job to go find some software that was capable of doing it, and then actually trying to create that in the CAD.
Okay, so that was like it was just for that one-off job. You didn't actually implement it into the actual design stream, did you?
Well, the purpose was for that one job, but then they kept the software on, obviously, and now they're able to get more jobs that require that software.
Okay, all right. So I would say, so what you've got there in that bullet point, that's all right. You just got to put the name of the software in there.
Okay.
Definitely. You got to find out what that was. It's probably Kizsoft, but there are other ones.
Yeah, it's somewhere in my emails.
Yeah. And then I'd just maybe clarify exactly at like what point in the design stream you inserted that software. I don't know, maybe just try and kind of make it. I know you don't have a lot of space there, so you can't really write an essay about it, but maybe just saying, into the quotation process or into the design process, just somewhere, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So basically just saying like, how did you integrate it and at what point? That's what I'm trying to say. But
Gears
otherwise,
go ahead.
No, you go ahead. That's all right.
I was gonna say gears are Laz's specialty, so he's grilling you on the gear part. So sorry.
Yes, they are definitely not my specialty, but if I had to say, I would say it was implemented into the design part, especially for that first job that we were given, because obviously we already had the job, we just needed to figure out how to do it. But then from then on, they knew they had that capability, so they were able to I guess implement that into the quotation part as well.
Yeah, that's fine. You can just try and insert that into that bullet point somehow, but keep it inside those 2 lines that you got.
It looks like I got space there. So
yeah, it's a good point. I think it's actually it's quite a nice thing to have there. So I'd put it in. The next bullet point is fine. That you can leave that as it is. I think that's all right. The next one, I'd say instead of saying constructed CAD models, put in reverse engineering. It's a nice buzzword. People like seeing it. It's a useful skill to have. Yes.
I don't consider that result. I don't consider that. I don't think that making a CAD model of something that already exists is reverse engineering. I think that's modeling.
It is reverse engineering.
There's no engineering. It's just you're just sitting there like.
Well, no, you have to figure out how they designed it. I have to do this all the time. If they don't give you the drawing, you need to make one. You have to figure out how they made it. You're reverse engineering it.
I don't think that.
Did you have to specify tolerances and stuff as part of making those CAD models?
No, it was mostly just hitting it with some calipers and some visual, like some optical inspection systems, and then getting
no drafting
close, kind of seeing what fraction it was closest to and what I thought the design intent was.
That is reverse engineering. That is exactly what that is. Emily, you're wrong.
No
it's reverse engineering.
I don't know about that.
I agree. Reverse engineering.
Guys.
Okay. Wow, thank you. I got some people on my side.
Your side. We're all on your side.
Oh, that's a good point.
If you're sitting there measuring things, trying to figure out how it was made and how to model it, that's what reverse engineering is. And you got it, man. That's a good experience, and I like to see that, honestly. So,
should I put it higher than the trained to experienced employees bullet point?
I would say so. Yes.
Okay.
You might be asked about it in your interview. Just have a prepared answer for it, but it's pretty good. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Name drop software wherever you can. I don't really want to write it 5 times, but
yeah. So instead of CAD models, you've got SolidWorks or whatever, right?
CAD. Okay. Do you know how much faster the quality assurance process was?
No, I did not get to see them necessarily doing that.
Can you ballpark it or no?
I mean, they didn't have CAD before, so I'm going to imagine significantly faster.
Okay.
Yeah, I think their quality assurance before that CAD was seeing if it fit on the parts they already had.
Okay.
Did you also have to make 2D drawings of those models?
I think I did. I think I had to make some sketches, or not sketches, some prints.
Oh, that's
Well, you
something
said you
you
didn't do
could include if you
tolerancing.
had space. Yeah.
You said you didn't do. They said usually the drafting, the 2D drawings include tolerancing.
That's a good question. I'll go through my files to see if I actually included tolerances on those prints.
If you did, man, that's really good stuff. Put that in there.
Yep. Then put GD&T. That's a thing.
Oh, GD&T, what an amazing buzzword. Put that in there if you've done it.
Buzz letters.
Well, I mean,
Okay.
if I did include tolerances, it was definitely not from like an informed point of view. So
That's okay. I mean, you're an intern, and we're not expecting a whole lot, but like, just that you have experience in that is good. Like, it's really, really good.
okay, yeah, I definitely say I have experience in it. I've messed up a few dozen parts for making it with the wrong tolerances.
Oh, there goes Emily.
Oh, did I stop?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, stream gone.
Crap. Oh, I'm trying. I'm going. How do I go?
Well, overall, I think that's actually a pretty good internship. I would hope that you'd be asked about that in your interview if you were going for a manufacturing/design position. I think that's pretty decent.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Actually, I'd gotten another internship, and then COVID hit, so that first one got canceled. And then this is my girlfriend's dad's machine shop, so he let me in.
Networking is so important, and people don't think it is. Let me just say. Let me just put that in right now. Doesn't matter. This is a great experience.
Also, go get a passport.
A passport.
It's a great form of identification. And occasionally you land somewhere there they need somebody to go overseas right now. My last job. They need someone with a passport ready to go.
Let me ship nuclear material overseas.
Do you guys not normally have passports?
Yeah, I have a passport.
It's
Americans
not
don't
very
have
common for Americans to have passports.
That's not a
no.
normal thing. What?
That's hilarious. You guys are
that's
wild.
crazy.
Well, America's so big that most people, a lot of people don't leave their states very often.
Yeah, mate, Australia's pretty big too, but we have passports, right? Like,
well, yeah, but like,
they really live there.
That's funny.
Okay, let's focus, guys. Come on. All right. You merged drone imagery with satellite data to track Puerto Rican flora patterns. Interesting. Before and after Hurricane Maria, helping design tools for farmers to optimize crop resiliency. I don't know how much you did this, but I think this is cool. What sort of tools?
Oh no!
Stream cut out again.
Oh no!
Well, I merged
I actually have not yet been to Australia, and I would like to go. It's just such a long flight.
It is an extremely long flight. Yeah.
I have some family there, so I went when I was way younger. But I wish I was older so I could have appreciated it more.
Can you see?
Oh,
yes.
The tools. So I was only on that research project for like a couple months, just merging images mostly, and like tracking where the plants were. I wasn't on the project long enough for them to actually build the tools.
Well, you said what tools did they make after you left? You can put that in there and just make it clear that do you get what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, what I'm trying to say is like the most details I know is that they were trying to create tools to help optimize crop resiliency, like where to put plants so they don't get wrecked by hurricanes.
Huh, okay. Well, you can say that. I mean, just be a little bit more specific. Helping design tools is just it's a bit wishy-washy. Like, just say like, to I don't know, optimize plant placement or something. I don't know.
Okay.
All right. University engineering team, electric boat racing. Cool. Is 11.5 miles per hour over 5 miles like impressive?
Not particularly, but it was able to do it without like dying. So that was our
Okay.
first year.
Also, don't boats use knots?
Yeah, they do.
But like normal people don't. So I wasn't really sure what to do.
And there was a not pun in there, but you didn't take it. All right. So take communication. So
Did you get a
So
B
you
in like
directed-
one class?
I don't think this is this a club or a class?
No, this is a team that I started.
Oh, I mean your GPA is like 3.9999, dude. Did you get a B in like one class only?
It was a minus.
Still an A.
First world problems.
Yeah. I feel like such a dick saying that.
I was happy I got over a 3.0. So I mean, I don't know about you guys.
I had a 3.4, but no one checks.
All right. Is there any, I think like you got to focus this section a little bit more on like the design. I see that there's oversee of development of hydrofoil system. That's cool. Did you like use any like CFD?
Yep, that's what we're doing right now. So the previous bullet points refer to what we were able to complete this past year, but next year we're adding that.
That's why it's in present tense. Okay.
Lots of CFD going on right now to design those and.
Well, yeah, definitely name drop the CFD.
Okay.
You like CFD? What type of CFD?
It's down again.
Emily.
Oh.
What's going on over there?
Man, I'm struggling. I'll go closer to the router if that's the problem. I apologize, guys. I don't know what's going on.
Should get the better antenna.
Yeah, I need our first person to help me engineer a better antenna. Okay, I'm closer to the router. Okay, so CFD, name that. Like I think that go ahead.
Oh, I was saying we're switching over to Siemens NX, and I think they call it SimCenter 3D, or that might be their FEA stuff. So I think actually, yeah, their CFD is Star CCM Plus.
Cool. That's what we used in our FSAE team way back in the dark ages. Okay. So I do think you could have more bullet points on the actual design bit.
Okay.
Of this side, unless you were mainly like a business, like management head person. If you don't have, a lot of design bullet points, that's okay.
No, I kind of did everything.
Well,
like a lot of variety.
I don't say this very often, but I honestly think you could probably decrease your font size.
Okay.
Shit. Did it happen again?
Yep.
Yes.
I think you honestly could decrease your font size. And you may have to play the formatting game.
Okay.
I think Discord's just done because it's gone in and out 3 times now.
You could just screenshot the PDF or whatever you're using and then like write bullet points or something. Yeah. Like post it in the chat or something and then put bullet points under.
Yeah. I'm going to talk over it and then I'll post a picture of the final markup. I apologize if you can hear that in the background.
The existence of dogs is appreciated.
Well,
Cats are better. Fight me.
Nah, cats are great. Not gonna
My
talk about
dog has attempted to eat several cats, so
my
I don't know about that. Okay.
So when you say add more design bullet points, do you like literally just add points, or should I replace some of them?
So it kind of depends on what sort of position you want. If you
Okay.
want a design position, focus on the design. If you want, then maybe these project management bullet points would make more sense. I sort of suggest to usually make like one resume per kind of general like position that you're applying to, not like one per job application, but one resume geared towards your own design, one resume geared to project management, one to analysis, or the kind of categories. So then you're not
Okay.
like killing yourself over changing your resume for every single application, but it is like still slightly tailored to your strengths for each of them.
Okay.
Have we hit skills yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Almost there. But that's kind of what I have to say. I'd suggest actually cutting down on your use of adjectives.
Okay.
Like timely completion and strenuous 4-month timeline. You could say like on time. I guess the timely is on time, but strenuous is like was it really strenuous? I don't know. Like unless you like say it's hard for me to like.
Yeah, how do you quantify strenuous?
Yeah, it's hard for me to believe you like without like hard examples. You know what I mean?
Like, should I specify how consistently I stayed up to what time of the night? How do I define that?
That's silly. I think the best way to communicate how hard you work on something is kind of listing all of the things you're involved with, like a short amount of time span, and what you actually did. I guess that's kind of more going into adding more design bullet points to like better communicate like what you did for this project.
Okay, so talk about the things that got done in that 4-month timeline.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does anybody have any better ideas of how to communicate working hard in a tight deadline? All right, we're going to keep going then. Or almost to skills. We're working. Coordinated a team of 5 to build a 3-axis hovercraft despite minimal lab time due to COVID-19. I would take that second bullet out. You might actually want to take this. So I don't know if I'm guessing you were maybe listening to the first bullet point, or not the first bullet point, the first resume we did. I'd almost like to see you list because I don't really know, like if you have like a ton of content to choose from, then you have to start picking and choosing what's the most relevant to, this design position that I'm applying to. And maybe it's adding the design bullet points from these 3 leadership experiences. Maybe it's cutting out one of the weaker, one of your earlier, projects that maybe you weren't as involved with, something like that. But I think, it's good to have, excess content. It's much better to have excess content than not enough content. But you're going to have to play the space on the page game and kind of pick and choose. Does that make sense?
Yes, but applying that to this part of the resume, you saying like I should get rid of this?
No, I would. Basically, it's hard for me to know how involved you were
Okay.
in these 2 last projects because there's so little about it.
hmm
I don't know if it would be better for you to expand more on your boat team and add more like technical bullet points for your boat team. But I don't know what you did for those other 2 projects. So I don't know like if those are better examples of your technical ability or worse examples.
I would definitely say worse examples, but I was afraid of like weighting everything on the one boat team. I don't want to.
I don't think that's a bad thing.
Okay.
Especially if you said you were super involved. And you're more than welcome to talk to the other 2 in an interview if someone asks you, oh, what other things have you done? But I think you should present your strongest stuff that will fit on the page.
Okay.
And if that means focusing on the boat team, then that means focusing on the boat team.
Okay. What is the best way to communicate? Like the boat team is something that I started freshman year, and then like I've been the president of it since. Is that like, is it weaker just to say founder, or like should I say president and kind of just get rid of the fact of founding it?
I don't know what the best word would be. I would probably have to think about that for a little bit.
Okay.
That's
like
more of like
founder.
a wordsmithing game. Like what spearheaded.
I think fan is good because it shows initiative.
Okay.
Yeah, and like a title like president wouldn't necessarily communicate that you started it.
Is it too much to put founder / president?
Yeah, too much. Don't do that.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
I think that's actually, yeah, it's something. Generally on like for interns and stuff, I like to see some amount of soft skills, like some amount of saying that like, you know, you're able to work in a team, or you're able to communicate with people, or that you have some level of like social skill, basically, you know. 'Cause
That's what the interview's for, man.
it's true, but if you want your CV or your resume to stand out, I think that's something that it's good to include. I know you're really struggling for space here, but if you can squeeze it in somehow, I would.
What? It says facilitate communication. That's exactly what you wanted.
It is, but I don't think it's enough.
I disagree. I am very much go for the technical skills. You can tell me about your communication later. But
well, look,
like,
I mean, I pull CVs out of piles every single day, right? So it's I'm telling you, it is. If you want to make yourself look set apart, you know, you've clearly got really, really good technical skills here, and I believe you that you know what you're talking about technically. So if you put something in there to show,
do you think like a bullet point about like my leadership style or something like that, go into more detail?
A leadership style or a leadership achievement would be really good. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
I mean,
where
look, I'd put it's low priority because I think what you've got here is really good, and I'd be really hesitant to take anything out.
I mean, I could take out the scheduling lead and linkage engineer to get more space.
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
Yeah. The problem I have with communication bullet points is that there's not a way to back it up, really. Because you can say that you're good at communication on paper pretty easily.
I mean, you can also say a lot of things. I mean, that's part of the interview. You know, it's like, you know, seeing that if what they've written is true.
I agree. But if you give like hard examples with results to back it up, like it's hard to do that with soft skills.
It's extremely hard, and that's what makes it stand out if you see it.
I guess. Okay. I'll take that.
Okay. So if I can think of a good bullet point, I'll add it. But if it's something like, you know, just generic, then not worth.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Jade, your skills section. You said you were waiting for it.
I just saw Excel and it jumped out at me. We've had this conversation in the past.
Yes, we have.
How are your Excel skills? Is it a skill?
I think so. I've caught on pretty quick at the consulting internship and using more than just like copy paste and like equals this plus this plus this.
Any Visual Basic?
No.
Okay, learn some.
Visual
Wheelhouse?
Basic.
Like for macros.
Yeah, for Excel macros, it's a really really good skill. It's really underestimated. It's amazing. You should have at least a passing familiarity.
Have you done any object-oriented programming before?
A little bit a while ago. Like
You'll
my
pick up
He's got
VBA
C++
like
in there.
you'll pick up VBA super fast if you know Python or MATLAB. That's usually in curriculums.
yes.
Yeah, you'll realize it's like so much easier than you thought it was.
It's a terrible language too.
Yes,
so
I
slow.
would definitely say I'm a lot more intimately comfortable with pivot tables than I am VBA. Pivot tables are like mostly what I do.
That's
pivot
still
table.
that's not bad. Not bad.
You know, like if
Yeah.
it's to say, if you put in your skills, you know, that you've got Excel and then VBA, and just do some like, you know, little tutorials online, and you know, you can just to have it in the skills. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so what would I put like a dedicated bullet point saying Excel and then in parentheses like VBA, assuming I knew it, and then like pivot tables and some other
You could just
specific stuff?
you could just put it in brackets after the Excel, and that's fine.
Yeah, I would. I mean, if you need room on the line, I would drop PowerPoint. I mean, how complex is PowerPoint? Is there something deeper that I don't know about?
Maybe. There's a lot of weird features, but none that are like going to make you next level. Like, oh yes, this guy's way better at PowerPoint, or like he
Yeah,
made it clearly more impressive.
Technically, you could code in VBA and PowerPoint, but
Okay.
Excel, I believe, is one of the deeper Office products.
Yeah,
Yep.
Excel and Access are both pretty deep.
I've actually found a lot of places don't use Access. People don't seem to like Access very much.
Yeah, but
They usually
any
jump
any
right to SQL.
yeah, any place that like has you know, some kind of programming expertise, they won't use VBA. They'll use SQL. But we wrote a database that uses Access as the front end and then uses SQL as the back end.
That sounds nice.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Any other comments about skill section?
Does
Bro.
it take up too much space? I think I saw somebody saying I could shorten it.
You
What
could
do y'all
shorten it to 3 lines.
Okay.
Yeah, I think instead of bullet points, maybe a list to save space might be good there.
Yep.
I mean, you don't have a lot of things there. What is that? What's that? 15 things? I mean, I feel you could fit more stuff in there.
Okay, so consider changing it to a list format to condense.
Mm-hmm. You're really struggling for space here, and I think anything you can do is good.
Yeah,
Is the
well, I mean, I
optical
think maybe,
inspection system between your ears.
well, I mean, that's the first and foremost, but secondary, there's like some Keyence machines and things.
Hmm.
Optical inspection systems, at least that I used, it's got like a bunch of different cameras, a bunch of different little lighting schemes where you put your part on this plate, and all the cameras will go take pictures of it and then stitch them together. So you get like a isometric view of it almost.
Oh,
And
that's
the
really
lighting
nice.
that they use is like a contrasting lighting. So you can highlight the edges very nicely and it can measure those edges and distances on that part up to like a few thousandths of an inch. Sometimes
Is
like
there
more ten
a
thousandths of an inch.
specific model of that? And same with the laser cutter, like a specific model that uses a proprietary language or software? That would
No.
be a better
It's-
highlight.
I know the model, it's like some Keyence thing, but it's not like a hard software. It's just like kind of, you need like 10 minutes of training and then you're basically good to go on it.
And then the same with the 3D printers. Are you just using like consumer grade printers, or are you using any of the higher?
Oh, I mean,
ones that
this
have
was
proprietary.
Yeah, it was a Mark Forged 3D printer, so definitely not consumer grade, but also pretty nice UI that like wasn't particularly difficult.
They won't stop sending me emails, and I don't know how to make them stop.
tell them that you will gladly take a free one for demonstration purposes, and you'll put it on your YouTube channel.
And then they will never speak to me again.
In your manufacturing internship, did you ever actually physically use the machines? Like, could you put into your hardware skills that you used like a Doosan Puma mill or something like that?
Yeah, I use lathes, or the lathe, and a little bit on the mill. The lathe is actually how I messed up those parts and had to go fix them.
Well, don't say that. What? Yeah, in your hardware, put on like some manufacturing thing. I think that's good to have. I like it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have a lot more of this next year with the boat team. We're doing a bunch of stuff with composites.
Is that with the boat? Yeah, boat composites.
Yeah, this year we just used like a bunch of aluminum bars and bolting things together. But next year we're making some custom things, and we'll need.
How are you making them? Are you doing wet layups?
Yes, I think the current plan is to 3D print a core. So like we're using hydrofoils, which are like basically wings, just smaller for boats. So we're going to 3D print the core of that wing, put a spar through it, and then just cover that in some carbon fiber.
Interesting. Cool.
Yeah, we got some novel ideas that we're planning on implementing, and hopefully going to go very fast.
Make a fast boat. Okay, how does everybody feel about this? I don't know if you can see my screen anymore, but...
No, it's been gone for a while.
Nobody told me.
These are all pretty minor details, but like in general, I don't know if what the first impression was because I wasn't here for that, but it's a really, really nice resume. Like, wow, dude, Jesus.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I like it because you use the exact same format that I do.
Someone's biased.
I think this is pretty solid. I mean, you've got some really, really outrageous claims there, but you've managed to back them up pretty good, and I think that's really solid.
Do you think having claims like those, if I'm not necessarily there to fight for myself or my resume, is going to hurt me?
No.
No?
I don't think so.
I think it's a coin flip. It could or it couldn't. I don't think there's any real way to answer that question.
Do you think giving more specific numbers rather than 250% and $100,000, like if I gave something more specific, it would sound more real?
250% sounds crazy, but if that's what you actually achieved, well, then that's what you achieved, and then that's what it is. So
yeah, it started. I ballparked it as like 60% speed, or like 60% decrease in time, or whatever, and I just changed that to increase speeds by 250%.
I think it's much of a muchness, but 250% does sound like an awful. It means like, kind of like, so this intern came into this place and did that. Like, what were they doing before? How were they in business?
I mean,
machine shops are old school businesses, man.
Yeah, that's definitely how I would describe where I was at.
Yeah. No, look, like it's fine. It stands out to me as being like, wow. But you effectively managed to communicate what you meant, and I believe you, so that's fine.
Yeah, I think because all of his other bullet points are so strong as well, that it makes it seem more believable. Like, if you were like obviously not knowing what you were talking about, then I wouldn't believe you.
You use the actual software name in that bullet point too, which kind of gives it an air of believability.
Yeah, that's how it was able to, made so much faster. That was the reason, because of the software.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, software is very capable, but UI was kind of trash.
Yeah, name a CAM software that has good UI.
Fusion 360.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, I didn't say this at the beginning. I would take off Dean's honor list. You have almost a 4.0. It's obvious that you are on the Dean's list.
Okay.
That saves you another line. And I don't know how involved you are in Sigma Gamma Tau, but again, depending on, how much you want to include that might give you another space too.
Okay, yeah, I'm involved enough to be in the group. Not much more than that.
I mean, you have obviously a lot of involvement in a lot of other things, so I don't think anybody would, miss it.
Okay. how
Unless
would
you're
you
trying
guys-
to like make a networking connection.
Yeah.
How would you guys
Yeah.
feel about just rounding the 3.9 to 4.0?
I
I
can't
had
do
already
that.
mentioned that.
What
Yeah,
about
I would-
honestly,
3.99?
if regardless of how you all feel about it, I'm gonna leave it. I don't want to do a 4 if it's not a 4.
What about 3.99?
3.98. Why would you round the 7 to a 9?
Oh, sorry, 3.98. Well, whatever. I mean, 3.98.
Yeah, it's I changed it to 3.98.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
okay with 3.98.
I've got a really minor thing. I don't even know if I really want to mention it, but generally when I write numbers, if it's less than 12, I'll actually write it in letters. So instead of saying like the number 3, I'd write THREE.
Oh yeah,
That's
I
a
did that
space
with the
thing.
trained to experienced employees, but I guess I wasn't consistent there.
Yeah.
So I
it's-
actually read an article on this recently from I think New York Times. Apparently there is no actual convention except to be consistent with however you choose to do it is the official stance on it.
Yeah,
So
I think that's
I
fair.
can make it the actual Arabic number rather than type it out, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I think so. I think it's all right.
I'll just be consistent
it's
with
As
it.
long as you
less
don't
Save
have
some
3
space.
written out somewhere else.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like the actual numbers. They makes it look a little bit nicer and save some space.
It draws the eye.
Indeed.
Towards the other.
I'm still
Alright.
not sure about the MPH though. I think you might want to consider knots.
Not.
I think you might want to consider metric units, you barbarians.
It's terrible. It's terrible to engineering something. Our whole electrical sub team did everything in metric, and so we have to buy all those hardware stuff, and then the mechanical sub team did everything in imperial.
Guess what? That happens in real life all the time.
Yep, I've been told as much. So it's not
We
that
lost
bad.
the
It just
whole
means we
Mars
need
lander
both.
because of it.
Yeah, we did.
Am I dating myself still, or is that current
Yeah.
enough that we all know?
More recent than Voyager, that's for sure.
Voyager is still happening. It's still happening. It's happening right now.
Okay, I think I'm gonna tap out, guys. Unless we have any more last minute comments or questions. I'll be uploading this to the resume channel. I know you probably can't see my screen anymore, but I will upload the final kind of red line for both of the resumes we did. But I have to ask this, Piggy. How do you feel? Do you feel better? You feel worse?
I feel great. Thank you for all the help and the critiques, and then all of y'all really boosted my confidence there. I think I'm going to be a little bit big-headed for the next day.
Dude, you're so
What?
smart. That was a good comment you just made there.
Well, I think you have a lot of grands here to be kind of big-headed. This is a really good CV, to be honest, mate.
Thank you. Thank you.
Laz is like, send me an uncensored version so I can hire you.
Yeah, you want a job? I've got a job for you if you want to move to
Yeah.
Melbourne.
I'd love that. I'm a UK citizen as well, and I appreciate travel.
Mm-hmm. Well,
All right.
consider Australia.
All right, guys. Well, I'm headed out. Tune into next resume. Please let me know if you want me to edit yours next time. I have one last one, but I think it's too late tonight. But yeah, I hope this helped people and you learned something. And yeah, I guess everybody enjoy the weekend, and thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
I just want to say a few
Oh.
things before we all leave. First
Sorry,
of all,
Jason.
Emily, thank you, Emily, for once again meeting with us all tonight and working through the difficulties. I think you did a great job working through that and making sure that we could still have a productive conversation here. I also want to, thank the people who put their resumes up here for us to talk about and risk shaming them for hours. Thank y'all. I also want to say, if anyone's interested in becoming an event coordinating team member, basically like me, you just hop up on here and talk until you talk too much and it becomes awkward. You can do that. You can just let me or Ada or Emily know, and we'll patch you wherever you need to go. And lastly, I want to remind everyone that on Sunday we have another presentation. It is not a resume review, but the details are in the announcements channel. It will be a mechanical engineering graduate student, but also a pipeline engineer. He's going to be presenting. It's really exciting. I haven't spoken to him myself. I presume that he's working and getting his employer to help pay for his master's degree. So if you're interested in education.
And I'm going to be hosting that.
Yeah, and Emily's going to be there.
Getting your employer to pay
Emily.
for your degree is how you do it.
Exactly.
I've heard that
we hope
people
to
have
see y'all
trouble
there, too.
Oh, sorry, go back. My bad.
No, I'm just saying we hope to see you all there as well. Go ahead, Piggy.
I was saying some people have told me that it's tough once you're in the workforce to like go back to college, and that shift is difficult. And then like also just trying to fit college in during work is very tough. And that like maybe it's worth just doing it before you go into the workforce.
Yes, absolutely. I just finished a stint of college, and I only officially became qualified. I'm also a recent engineering graduate as of a couple months ago, and it's all online classes for me. I actually have a coworker who's doing some in-person classes, and he has to leave at a very specific time at work to get to class, and then his wife is watching the two kids, and I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, that's
Even for me doing online classes asynchronously. And this was designed to be online classes. This is not a COVID related online, condition. This was like intentionally online courses. Yes, very, very trying on everyone involved, but got through it. And now on September, I am going to graduate school online to do it again. So yeah, it's doable, but your free time is completely gone. It's work, school, sleep, and that's it.
Yeah. Sounds tough.
So my classes were not super rigorous, and so for me, in order to get a promotion, I needed the piece of paper. So I was doing 3 courses to accomplish the goal of promotion. One course possibly is more doable, but that one, then you're trading time, right? Do you want to have life suck for a short amount of time, or would you like it to continue sucking 3 times longer by taking one course at a time? So that's a cost benefit you have to do for yourself.
Is there a world in which like, I don't know, whatever job you have, having the master's isn't really, or not having a master's wouldn't be as much of a barrier?
Lots of jobs not having a master's probably isn't a barrier. I know we have some master's people here. Chase, how are people at your job without masters?
Well, half of them don't even have a bachelor's, so they're all right.
Yeah, it's the same in like kind of manufacturing. We actually, honestly, I think even in that kind of industry, having a master's might actually be a disadvantage because people distrust nerds.
Oh my god.
It becomes super specialized when you get the master's. And then for me, like previous to this, my previous job, I had engineer title, which I know in some countries is illegal, but I only had a associate's degree, and I had the engineer title. I was performing installation engineering work. It wasn't design engineer. I wasn't signing off or stamping anything, but so it can really vary quite wildly.
Okay. Because I think the big issue for me is I'm an out of state student, and like I can't afford $70,000 for another year for grad school.
Ask yourself, what is it you want to do? Like what job do you want to get?
Shit, I don't know.
All right. Well, what's your dream? Like when you wanted to be an engineer, what did you imagine yourself doing?
Something that like not necessarily started myself, but something that is a relatively new venture, and like
Okay, so like more kind of R&D, cutting edge kind of stuff.
Maybe it doesn't even have to be necessarily R&D, but like a new take, effectively startup, and then like somewhere in the management level of that.
Okay, I'd say in that case, yeah, probably. It sounds like a master's might benefit you.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I guess I just have to go for a GSI position.
Well, it varies by school too. I know that the graduate school that I'm going to, which is non-STEM, unfortunately, so your mileage may vary, but it's online and they give in-state tuition to everyone in the program, just because, and that's just how they operate. So look around at schools. Does it have to be the school that you're going to now? Is there a school in your state? I mean, do some research and see if there are schools that will give you, in-state tuition for the graduate level stuff. Because once you get to graduate side, it's the rules start, really shifting. That's my experience.
Yeah, it's a tough decision. Not only like if grad school, then what courses or like what degree, and then where. And it's too much for my small brain. I can't handle it.
I mean, if you want to do grad school and you have this GPA currently, and if you keep it up, I would say you can easily apply for a Rhodes scholarship or a Marshall scholarship.
Okay, that sounds nice.
Yeah, you might even get a research master's, and then they'll pay you if you're really lucky.
Yeah, and I would say like Rhodes Scholarship and Marshall are two of the most prestigious scholarships we have currently in the world. So,
is Marshall the one where you go to the UK?